Oh, hi guys.
Hi.
How are you doing? Welcome back. It is the 24th of July. It is a Friday. And it is day 126 of our lockdown vlog. And by the looks of it, the last of the daily ones.
Yeah,
Which,
well, we're just going to have to start calling them like episode
yeah,
127, etc., rather than day, because
yeah,
they won't be consecutive days anymore.
no.
This is, this is the last. We've been doing this 126 days in a row.
Yep.
We won't know what to do. Well, you'll know what to do with yourself, won't you? You'll be away. I'll be
I've
in the I won't
got
know what to do with myself
loads
tomorrow.
to do with myself.
Oh,
I have got too much to do. But yeah, I don't like that we're finishing doing them daily at all, to be honest. But yeah, it's just sort of unavoidable, I guess. Because
we have talked on the vlog about how Lucy's got used to us being around all the time, and how when we go back to work, she's not going to like it because she's going to suddenly have to put up with being on her own in the house again and not have us about. But that was, I mean, we haven't really ever put too much thought into it. I guess we've always that's been predicated on the idea of like lockdown will end and we will both be able to return to work.
Yeah, it's
But
weird,
for
a
now,
weird middle ground of me being out and you being in, and sort of.
Yeah, a bit of a weird one, right? How am I gonna like it when you go back to work and I'm left in the house on my own? How's this supposed to become of me?
At least you understand where I've gone, though.
That's true. I do have lots of things to keep me occupied and things.
Yeah,
but,
it does feel weird because I don't know. I guess it was quite naive, but just to sort of assume it would be like going back to work would feel like, oh, everything's back to normal, but things aren't. Like, things are not back to normal. This is sort of everywhere, and it's sort of gonna be around for a long time. So there is no going back to how it was before. But yeah, going back into work and sort of getting it ready for customers, like, in a way, I'm really excited. I'm really glad to be doing that. But as I've sort of mentioned before, it does mean that I'm more anxious than I was when I was sort of just in lockdown. Because actually I was having a think about it yesterday, because yesterday I sort of started to be a bit wobbly and I started to feel sort of quite overwhelmed and quite daunted by everything. And then I had to sort of think about it afterwards, and I realised that I've mentioned on here before, I previously used to have sort of mental health problems in that I had sort of quite bad anxiety and depression. And I consider that to be sort of in my past, and I think I've done a lot of work to come forward, and thankfully I'm a much better place. But lockdown has sort of sneakily brought some of those things back to the fore, but I've not really clocked them as sort of slipbacks in mental health because they felt legitimate. So back in my London days, when I was essentially agoraphobic, I couldn't leave the house alone, literally not to go, like, I lived opposite a corner shop and I would go hungry rather than go to the shop for food, because just as soon as I left the front door, that was too daunting and scary, because I'm in control of what happens in here. I'm not in control of what happens out there. And that obviously is mental. I know that, I'm aware of that. But the thing is, there were old patterns of thinking that were sort of very damaging and not great for me when that was all going on. But those thought patterns are still back in the dark mists of my subconscious somewhere. And in lockdown, the sort of message that you're getting constantly is, don't leave the house, stay in, be cautious. Sorry, the wind is blowing a door there. Stay in, avoid people, do all that, and that has been literally what we're supposed to be doing. So there's a little dark voice in my subconscious somewhere that's been going, ha ha, just what I always wanted.
I knew it. I knew I was right to
I
stay
knew
away
I
from
was
the
right.
others.
And so without me really realising it, now sort of having to sort of go out and be around people feels scarier than it should, and it feels bigger than it should, even with the backdrop of a global pandemic, because all of the things that previously were mental have been encouraged. So staying in has been the right choice, avoiding people has been wise, not going out unless you absolutely have to has been what I've been supposed to do. So I've been there going like, oh, look at me, aren't I good? But actually, what has happened is those things have sort of snuck back into being habitual ways of thinking. And now that I've got to break out of that, it feels big and it feels horrible and I don't like it. I do not approve. So there are elements of like easing lockdown means easing restrictions, which actually means sort of fighting a few mental health battles that I didn't know were happening because they were very well camouflaged by everything that was going on. And it's only sort of been over the last few weeks when I've been talking about doing things, going out of the house, meeting people in other places and that kind of thing, which are all allowed, that I've realised I feel really uncomfortable doing that. And yes, of course, COVID, that's the main reason. But I think there's more to it. I think it is just, oh, yeah, no, I liked Essentialist. There was not a like, because obviously I didn't like lockdown, but there were elements of it that felt safe and comfortable. Controllable. And now that I'm sort of talking to people who want to sort of make plans and stuff, and then it's just like, oh yeah, well, we can meet in the pub outdoors and we'll socially distance. And like my extroverted brain goes, oh yeah, lovely, meeting people, I've missed people. But then the little demons in the back are they're going, no, it's not safe, don't do it. And then you get that like knot in your stomach of, there's a cat. You can tell, I don't even need to tell you, when he does that, it's because there's a cat.
It's because I saw him walking across that road not like 2 minutes ago.
Camera work, like, Chris, camera work.
I saw him, he was walking across the road the other side of the street from us in the front of our house, and then he's coming through the back door. And now he's with us, like, we were ever so quick, weren't you? Well done. And then he was trying to get through the door that was, the wind kept blowing it to and shut, and I was just keeping an eye he didn't get trapped in the door.
I'm going to pause it so we can feed this little cat. He is fed. There is also quite likely the possibility I might have to pause this again during this vlog because I am waiting for a delivery that I'm going to need to actually prep some stuff before I can go into work later. So I'm hoping it comes soon. Otherwise, I'm pulling a late one. But yeah, so yeah, just to sort of say that, like, yeah, there's mental health stuff going on there that I think is adding to just the sort of reasonable feelings of like, oh, there's quite a lot to do and it's sort of quite scary and all of that. I think there's other stuff going on there as well, which I wasn't really prepared for. I didn't know that was happening. So I guess that just is a bit of a reminder to me that you'll never, like, if you've had, like, everybody struggles with mental health from time to time, and just because you've had a mental health problem in the past doesn't mean that you're mentally ill. But you do have to be mindful of those sort of unhelpful patterns of thinking because they can creep back in without you noticing.
Well, I think the thing that I'm a bit worried about is just where, obviously, like you were mentioning, the danger is you go too far and kind of what you're afraid to do and how wary you are of things. But I worry about the people who are going the other way, going, it's all fine now, and we don't even need to follow the guidelines that have been put in. Like, well, social distancing isn't necessary, the masks aren't necessary.
Are making it much harder to be one of these people.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I think I'm fairly, well, I'd like to think I'm fairly sort of relatively relaxed about stuff, but then the minute I go into town and there's loads of people not socially distancing and none of them are wearing masks, and you think, like, I think I said on the vlog before, it might have been in the solo vlog, I was in Iceland the other week. It was the first time I've been into town since the start of lockdown, and I sort of turned and I nearly bumped into an old woman. And obviously my first thought is, oh, oops, sorry, shouldn't have done that. But then my second thought was, hang on,
why
if
are
she
you
had
that
made
close?
Any effort at all to socially distance, there would have been no way I could have bumped into her. So it's her own fault.
What a bitch.
Silly cow. Hope she has a fall.
Oh.
I don't know if she has a fall.
No, I know you don't.
But
yeah, I think that's the thing, because it's quite polarizing, all of this. And like I've been saying from the start, I think we all just need to sort of be like really considerate of each other right now and sort of do what's best for the collective. And like, yeah, I think like there are so many people that are just sort of talking like now that it's over, and because you're going back into work, that doesn't mean that this is over. And I like it isn't over, and oh god, like I feel like I can see into the future, and I'm just like, oh, this is like, you're all acting like this is over and it's not, and this is just going to be like, I'm thinking, admittedly, I was thinking that we were going to already be in a second wave by now after some of the scenes we were seeing, like sort of around VE Day parties and stuff like that. And thankfully, I think the fact that everything's been outdoors, and it seems, sort of now that we know more about the science of it, it seems that actually outdoor transmission is really low. So that is really positive. What happens when the weather's shit though? We live in Britain. Like in autumn, well, even in summer, but actually in autumn, people are going to go, oh, well, it doesn't matter if we come inside, does it? It's raining, let's just pop in. And indoor transmission, but like the pubs are going to be open indoors, restaurants are going to be open indoors. And I just don't feel good or optimistic about the virus and all of the other stuff that's sort of part of that and sort of the way the world works now. On top of that, I've had a bit of a blow this morning. I won't go into the details because it's sort of like legality things, but in terms of regulations, there's something going on in work that basically looks like we thought we were going to get it fixed and sorted so that we were like okay to open, which still might happen, but the timescale looks less likely to be as quick. So I'm in the awkward limbo situation now. I kind of need to get it ready to go. But I can't make any money or open any bookings until I know that we are ready to take customers on site. And I can't do that legally at the moment until this certain thing is fixed. But it's out of our control. It's controlled by the building owners. And they are not quick on their feet to fix things. So I've sort of, like, at least I was kind of like, okay, getting us ready to open, that's my goal. And I still have to do that, and there's still loads to do in order to get us there. But yeah, the bit of news I had this morning sort of be like, oh yeah, well, we don't know when that's going to happen, so just sort of wait and see. And it's like, well, wait and see isn't really any fucking use to me. Like, I need a date, I need a time scale, I need people to give me actual information that I can work with. And again, it's things that are beyond my control fucking me up. And I'm like, oh God, if only I could control absolutely everything, then I wouldn't have any mental health problems, because that's healthy. But yeah, so that's been a bit of a blow there, which has kind of given my mood a bit of a knock. Like, I was wobbly yesterday because I was a bit sort of anxious and overwhelmed, but today I'm grumpy, basically, because yeah, it just sort of feels like, oh, for fuck's sake, it's one thing after another, and like, I can only do what I can do, but I just, for being sort of reluctant to know whether or not reopening is the right thing to do anyway, I kind of need it to go well, and I need it to run smoothly, and I need it to be like within the realms of my control, and it's not, and I don't like that. But that is my own bad mental coping strategies for basically everything. So so I've taken a bit of a blow news-wise there, so that's sort of made me a bit grumpy, and yeah, made a little bit of, oh, what's the fucking point? But the point is, there needs to be money coming in from somewhere, so I need to get us ready for money to come in from somewhere, because there is no more money coming from the government once I go back to work. And I need to go back to work in order to reopen, but I don't know when I can reopen. And there's lots of sort of like, well, if I need to pay my rent, then I've got to go back. But like, it's no good going back if I can't open, because then I'm in worst case scenario. So actually, if I go back and I put in all the days and then we can't open, I've lost out on all that furlough money, done lots of work that needs to be redone a few weeks or possibly even months from now. And it all just feels a bit like I'm chasing my tail now. And also, yeah, like, so ending this as a daily thing, because I was going to go back to work, well, now it sort of feels like, well, am I? When am I going back to work? Like, what's happening? Like, what's the time scale on this? And I just don't know. And not being able to plan for things is my Achilles heel. I like to plan. I like to know what's going on, and I like to be able to sort of get that picture in my head, and I don't have it, and it's annoying me. It's really damned inconsiderate of the world to not let me control it.
It is. But, well, did we explain what time it is that we're recording this quite early?
No, I don't think we have yet.
We're actually recording this
about
at
3-ish, 3:15ish,
which is very early by our standards. It's not, I realise, by most people's standards that's towards the end of their working day. But
yeah, but
we normally record these quite late at night sometimes.
Well, we kind of need to have a day to then discuss our day.
That's it. And today, because Ellie has to go into work later, and then she's having a socially distanced meet up with a friend after that. So we don't. We weren't going to be able to kind of fit it in the evening, and we knew. So we've had to record this actually before Ellie goes to work. Now that's meant two things.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, as Ellie mentions, we haven't really had much of a day to talk about yet, even by the standards of a quiet lockdown day that we sometimes have. We haven't really done it. We've watched a couple of episodes of The Office.
I've kept meaning to mention actually that
we've
we're
not really
working
talked
through
about
The
that feed.
Office.
It's
I
great.
am bloody loving it because it's the US Office, which I had until now seen sort of episodes and quite enjoyed. But I think the main thing I love about it that I'm really, really getting something out of this time is watching how the stories of the individual characters are progressing and like really, really rooting for certain characters and actually growing to like other characters that maybe you initially don't like and sort of seeing the extra facets to people. And so watching it chronologically from the beginning has been quite eye-opening to me. I'm really, really loving it. So we've just started series 4. So it's it's not spoilers really, is it? This has been going since 2005. If you haven't watched it by now, then I don't think you were gonna. But
you should though.
You should.
Because here's the thing.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Prime Video.
It's a great show. It's one of those shows like you talk to a lot of people, and maybe they saw some of the first season in America and thought, "Oh, isn't as good as the British one," and didn't bother, or they've caught the odd episode here or there. And they go, oh, it's all right, but not really worth delving into. And what I would say is Ellie's right. It's the sort of show, and it's hard. You try and explain this to people, and they sort of go, oh yeah, maybe.
Feels like a big commitment though.
Because it really finds it. So the first season is only 6 episodes, and they're only about 20 minutes each. And I mean, at least one of those episodes is really brilliant. Like
they are good. Like
racial awareness one. But
I think the first series it was finding its feet a little bit.
It was slightly
and
aping
perhaps
the British
it was a
one
little bit
too much.
two-dimensional because I don't think they knew at that stage that they were going to be able to sort of build these characters for as long. So actually, like Michael, for example, who's the sort of David Brent character, is quite 2D, and Dwight the same, quite 2D in the first series because they're just sort of awful. But actually, like, you grow to even Dwight. You grow to love,
but
even though he's a dick.
It's the sort of show that really does reward, like, just watching it all in order.
Yeah.
Because even though each show is funny, like, there are emotional beats and longer narrative arcs, and even some of the jokes just resonate harder if you are familiar with the characters and their personalities and the way they
things that were just
interact.
kind of suggested in previous series, and then later on they developed to become whole storylines. But if you hadn't watched them as in order, you wouldn't necessarily notice those things.
I think this because the trouble is sometimes you say to someone like, for example, The Big Bang Theory, which I realise is a very divisive show.
Yeah.
And I quite enjoy it. But I do think it's better if you've kind of watched it all the way through and you're invested in the characters.
I agree. But watching them as individual standalones is particularly the later ones, is a bit meh.
But I would say almost to the detriment of the show.
Yeah.
Where you're almost going, yeah, it's not the world's best sitcom, but you kind of get to know the characters and you almost enjoy it as a soap.
Yeah.
Right? Which is kind of not ideal as a sitcom goes. I enjoy the show, it's finished now, isn't it? I enjoyed watching the show, but I don't feel like I'm going to return and watch it ever. So the trouble is, if we say you have to watch The Office in order, it kind of makes it sound like, oh, it's not very funny, but it's a bit of a soap, and you kind of
it isn't. It is. I think it's funnier for watching the development of the characters, but also there are elements of sort of growing to be attached to the characters, and not just ones that you're sort of rooting for because you like them, but actually sort of some of the peripheral characters that I think if you just watched as sort of an individual episode, you would just think, oh, they're just there to be kind of funny or to punctuate jokes. But actually, if you watch it all as a whole, you do actually sort of get little snippets of what's going on with their lives and things that you think about them. Toby, I think, would be a good example of that.
Well, you don't get to see him very
begin
much,
with, he's not in it lots, and actually he doesn't really sort of talk things through much. But you've just sort of realised like some of the subplot that's going on with Toby. I was going to call him Tory then. Sorry, Toby. Oh my God, I've got them on the brain. But actually, I think if you watched some of the episodes that we're on now, for example, with sort of what's going on in the story, if you hadn't watched them in order, you wouldn't get any of that subplot that's going on with Toby at all, because it's just he could just be sort of quiet and a bit awkward. Like you wouldn't know what the subtext is unless you watch it. And actually, the subtext makes those scenes really funny. But without knowing the subtext, they might land flat, actually, which I think is what's happened to me previously, because I've quite enjoyed it when I've watched it, but I've sort of watched them when they're on and had an idea of the characters and liked it, and actually found it funny, but I didn't fully appreciate it in the way I do now. Now I am so rooting for the characters, I'm really invested, and I'm really enjoying it. And actually, it's been exactly the kind of thing I've needed right now, because we were watching some slightly heavier stuff. Not like really in depth, like hard hitting stuff, but we're working through Daredevil, for example, which is quite dark, it's quite gritty, it's sort of a lot of action, and bits of it are quite grim. And yeah, I think over the last few weeks where I've just been a little bit wobbly, I've just kind of, I want nice and funny, but not just throw away bubblegum for the brain either. So it's been perfect for kind of, like, it has, we've both got quite, we're ploughing through so many episodes of that a day when I can't really justify it, but I need it, guys.
We've really been binging it. I'm on my third sort of watch through of it all.
Oh, are you?
Like I watched it when they were initially on, and then I watched it a second time. This is my third go, although some episodes I have just caught on TV and things and seen more than that again. But this is at least the third time I've seen each episode, but a lot of the episodes I've seen actually more than that, and it holds up. It really does.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm really getting a lot out of it, and it wouldn't have even been sort of top of my list to do, but actually you watched that video essay by Quinton Reviews about the story arc of Michael Scott. And when you mentioned that, because I think you'd watched it and you mentioned it on the vlog, and I sort of thought, oh, actually, I wouldn't mind watching that. They're only like little 20-minute video essays, and I was like, oh, I'd be quite interested to see that. And so then watched it, and then I was like, I kind of want to rewatch The Office, but I had actually watched series 1 while I was up in the room with Poppet on the iPad, and I'd enjoyed it, but it wasn't sort of like, oh, I need to see the next one, which is usually my sign of a good show that I'm really into, is like, when it finishes, you're like, just one more? Just one more, and you do that for about 4 episodes, which I wasn't like that, but admittedly, watching it on an iPad while lying on an uncomfortable floor with a really grumpy cat was probably not the best for it. But because I'd watched that quite recently during lockdown, it was like, should we just start on series 2? So there's only like 6 episodes in series 1 anyway. And so we started from series 2, and I think that was where it all started to come together, and I think it was when they got sort of signed up to do more series and longer series, and I think they kind of went, oh right, okay, we need to flesh this out and do more with the characters we've got. So then it wasn't so much that the peripheral characters were kind of like little more than extras. It was like everybody, we've got time to tell everybody's story.
And I know that Ellie's still got at least 3 brilliant characters that she hasn't met yet.
Ooh.
Because we're only on the start of season 4, so it's exciting.
Ooh. I probably will, because actually I hadn't, like, you know, because actually it gets memed quite a lot, stuff in The Office, so, or like little like reactions to camera and stuff, I've noticed. So I had forgot, I'd seen several memes that had characters that weren't in it at the start. For example, Andy and Karen.
Right.
Like, they weren't in the first 2 series. They came in at series 3, or possibly at the very end of series 2, but mainly series 3. But I'd entirely forgotten that I'd seen them. But as soon as you see the picture of them in the office doing the talk to camera, I was like, oh yeah, Rashida Jones was in this. Oh, I love her from Parks and Rec, and that kind of thing. So they probably will be that I do know that they're in it, but I've forgotten that they're in it.
Yes,
and when I see them, I'll be like,
You certainly won't know fully their like character
I won't.
in the show.
The later stuff I haven't seen any of. I think I caught a clip of, and I won't actually say what's in it in case anybody does go, oh, I'm going to rewatch it or I'm going to watch it. But there was a scene in a late episode, I don't know how late it was because I was watching it out of context, but where I saw sort of something going on which I now know is like the destiny of certain characters. But I don't know how they get there, and I'm still invested, and I want to see how they get there. So yeah, it's all good. So I'd highly recommend, and it's kind of good right now because everything's a bit heavy right now. And
so as I was saying, we haven't really done much today to talk about. I said not anticipating that sort of massive The Office tangent. But yeah, we haven't really done much to talk about today. We're filming a bit earlier in the day, and the other thing was knowing that Ellie has to go off to do a afternoon's work after this. Didn't really want to send her off on a downer and finish our last vlog sort of talking about politics or anything too downbeat.
Okay.
So what I thought I'd do is, before Ellie got up this morning, I looked on the Metro website and looked up some kind of light-hearted news stories that we could talk about as kind of finish.
Lovely.
Like an upbeat kind of tonal end to the thing. So
okay, hit me.
the first one is a woman who works as a personal trainer is saying that she has been taking sperm to ward off the coronavirus.
Okay, what's her thinking there? And when you say taking,
Either
orally? Like
yes, not.
Is she using it as some sort of face cream?
What
is she doing?
What's the one where you pop it up the bum? What's that called?
Suppository.
Yeah, not as a suppository.
Okay.
Yeah, orally. And actually, she did say she was putting it on her face as well for a complexion.
Well, there is a story. This is pre-lockdown, but there is a sort of new wave of like beauty treatments that apparently semen is good for your skin, for making your skin look youthful. A man has come up with that, hasn't he?
Well, this woman reckons she's been doing it. She reckons she's been doing this pre-lockdown. She didn't start doing it just because of lockdown, but she reckons since she's been doing it, she hasn't had a cold or a flu, so she reckons it will help with coronavirus as well. Right. The Metro was quick to point out that this is not included in any of the World Health Organization guidelines, government guidelines, or NHS guidelines.
Yeah, what does one do if one does not have access to sperm?
Well, she said if you don't have a partner, you could ask a healthy male friend. Which, when I was single,
that's got to be a very good friend, hasn't it?
Well, when I was single, a woman I knew wanted my sperm but did not want to help with the extraction process, so I'd feel somehow hard done by. I think. But she...
The extraction process
I was trying
makes
to
it sound very scientific.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be highbrow with this and clinical. And
not helping with the harvesting.
Yeah, I that's what do you want me to say?
I'm not saying anything.
Well, exactly.
You brought up this story. I'm staying well out of it.
She was saying it's better to get it, to have it as close to the source as possible. I think she meant freshness. Right. I don't think she meant like consume.
Gotta do it near
I don't think she meant consume it
source.
at waist height. But I'd
love to see that on a bottle of consume at waist height.
She said she either has it in like shots.
Right. Oh.
Or she has
chuck it in a smoothie?
Yes.
Yeah.
With like bananas and berries, which knowing you'd take out the bananas first before you took out
I'd
the
rather
sperm,
without the bananas. Yeah, I'd rather have the sperm and berries than a banana smoothie.
I'm not against. And she also said because she's in a long distance relationship.
Well, that's added a level of challenge to this.
Well, she has to keep it frozen in an ice tray in the freezer, like ice cubes.
And she's basing this on the fact that she hasn't had a cold
or a flu or anything
during lockdown when everybody's doing
prior to
right.
That.
So
I think she's been doing it since like 2018.
Right.
She said
and the fact that she's sort of a personal trainer and quite fit and healthy, she's not attributing any of that. It's the sperm.
It's the sperm, and she said the dose
Wouldn't
varies.
Wouldn't that mean that do men have to take it as well? Or do they just have it? So they just walk
already,
around already
sloshing around inside them, isn't it? They get
around.
the benefits.
Well, yeah, but it's not in the digestive tract, is it?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it is. Men should be getting high on their own supply.
Getting high?
I just like the rhyme. But she said that the dose varies depending on how hydrated her partner is.
That's understandable.
But I'm not against people drinking sperm if that's what they want to do, but I feel like she's taken some of the fun out of it.
Yeah, she's made it quite medicinal and scientific. But yeah, significantly less fun. And also slightly obligatory. Like, I think, like, the guy in a relationship, usually, if the lady's like, I would like to consume some sperm, please, will be thinking, hey, this is a good day. But not if it's, like, becomes sort of a routine thing. That, like, come on, sit down.
Well, this is it.
Time for mama.
I mean,
got to think of my immune system there, Derek. Come on.
Good for the prostate.
Yeah, apparently.
So,
well, I guess fair play to them, but the idea that that's going to be in any way helpful to coronavirus, I suspect, is largely bunk. But okay, doing anyone any harm.
Well, as I say, they did make it clear that the World Health Organization and the NHS guidelines and the government guidelines, none of them have mentioned this.
No.
So they haven't come out against it. Is the other thing.
No, that's true.
The other story that I wanted to mention, and I feel a bit remiss in this because this was from the 1st of May. This story.
Oh,
so
right, okay.
We missed this story, so I can only apologise we didn't bring it up sooner. But in Japan, they've had an aquarium that's been closed for a couple of months, and the garden eels, which are a species normally sort of wary of other creatures and things and would hide in the sand. But they had grown used to kind of people all milling about and being around. So they would just be up and about and looking at things and kind
people,
of,
right.
oh yeah, quite happy. And then since lockdown, they've got used to no one being around again. So now if is it a keeper that's in the aquarium? I don't think keeper is the right word, is it?
I guess
the people who work in the aquarium anyway, who have to look
animal
after
handling
the animal handling staff they go through and suddenly the garden eels are like, oh no, don't like this, and they've
gone shy again.
Started hiding.
Aww.
And it actually has made things difficult for the staff who are trying to
keep an eye on them,
okay. Check their health and things like that.
Oh.
So what they've done in Japan, they've asked members of the public to do like video chats with the eels.
Oh!
And they've set up like iPads and things along the
people...
side of the glass, and people can go on FaceTime and like wave and smile and talk.
Oh, that's
You're not allowed to shout at them, which seems fair.
Don't shout at the eels.
I think that's a good rule for FaceTime manners generally, isn't it? Don't shout at people unless they're deaf. But yeah, and you just go and look at the eels and then just.
Hi, eels.
Yeah.
Ooh, hello.
Now, this was in May, and they had a special festival. They were doing it for like a week, so I don't know if it's still an option. It was in Japan as well.
They could watch the vlog.
There was they did a hashtag that apparently went pretty well and caught on, but it was in Japanese, so we wouldn't have seen it. But it was like hashtag remember the humans.
Oh, thank you, Babs. I needed that.
That's nice news.
Yeah, it is nice.
Sweet.
Remember the humans.
I hope that went well for them.
Well, there's been a few nice stories along those lines, because obviously all aquariums and zoos have basically had to shut. I don't know why the wind is blowing that. There's no other windows open or anything. But yeah, sorry, they're getting distracted by moving things. But yeah, obviously because zoos and aquariums and things have had to close. Although some of them are now allowed to reopen, because particularly zoos, largely outdoors, so largely fairly safe. But yeah, so what they did in a few places, because obviously the keepers still have to go in anyway. They've still got exactly the same amount of work has to go into looking after the animals, because they've got to be fed, they've got to be entertained, and most good zoos have good enrichment programs and stuff. So what they've done, because they would never be able to do it under normal circumstances, is sort of introduce different animals to each other and things. So there was an aquarium in the States, and I don't know why, but they brought in a bunch of local rescue kittens to the aquarium in the little sort of tunnels to just sort of look at all the fish, and there's beautiful footage of that because obviously they're loving it. But also I think it was San Diego Zoo, but I could be wrong on that, but it was one of, I think, the big American zoos decided while they were in lockdown that they were going to take the elephants around to have a look at the other animals, because elephants are really intelligent and also very social creatures, and they like sort of stimulation. They can go a bit mad if they don't have enough to entertain them, and obviously you can't normally be walking elephants around a zoo because there's people, but when it was sort of planned and they could sort of plan the route and sort of, so they took the elephants, I think one or two at a time, around the whole zoo, and it turns out almost across the board all of the elephants' favourite animals were the sea lions.
Mine too. Sea lions are great.
But yeah, they just really
the cats of the sea.
Reacted really well to the sea lions.
Just a bit of earthquake.
Sorry, Lucy trying to get under our feet for no reason.
We've talked before on this vlog about how, when you go out, you know, I'm not the sort of laddie lad that's going to go, right, I'm going to get a beer and watch the football or the rugby while Ellie's out. So if you're out this evening, it's just going to be me watching footage of kittens in an aquarium, isn't it?
Oh, I kind of want to do that while I'm here as well.
Oh,
sorry, there's a dog trying to get under our legs.
Lucy,
there you go. Oh, Babs. There we go. Hello. She was just sort of using our animals being cute voice, and she was like, I want to be in on that. So she's under our feet now. But yeah, so there are lovely things that have sort of been weird little side effects to all of this madness. But yeah, I am glad that like the various sort of places like that have been allowed to reopen. I don't know what the situation is with aquariums because they are largely indoor because like they need to be well lit and you need to be able to see. So I don't know if they're open yet. But
I don't know.
Like I think most zoos are, but like certain houses like the Nocturnal House and the Reptile House, I think are still off limits because they're indoor.
I tell you what though, we need to wrap this up because I am having to sit at quite an uncomfortable angle to not tread on a dog at this point.
Okay.
So this is we hopefully we'll be back on
probably Tuesday.
So like and subscribe. There's no shame in it. Keep doing that, and also maybe turn on the little notifications thing.
Yes.
And then that'll let you know when there's going to be a new one.
So yeah, we will aim towards actually setting a proper schedule, and we will keep to that. But I think what we'll need to do to begin with is work out what's doable. So it's probably going to be when we can do one, we will do one. So some of them might be quite frequent, and some of them might have gaps. We don't know.
If you turn to so you're a bit to the back of me, it'll look like we're on the poster for a romantic comedy.
Oh right, yeah. So I should be like, and you should be looking all like silly, like. Yeah, there you go.
Hopefully we get that as one of the screenshots for the. We don't get to. It's weird. You film a whole episode of this. And then YouTube says you can have one of 3 screen grabs that we've picked at random.
You can, apparently, but you've got to wait till it's fully uploaded, then go through it and select one. But that's a fact. You know. But pick one of the 3, and it just picks them at random. But every now and again, we have a really good selection. I'm like, I don't know which one to choose. They're all bonkers. But yeah, yesterday's, I think I was really glad. Was it yesterday's that you had the anchovies? Or was it the day before?
Day before.
Oh, so yeah, just managed to get, just holding up the anchovies to the computer. I was like, yeah, that's the one. That's the winner.
One, guys.
Right. So, yes.
We'll see you soon.
We're not over. This is not the end. This
if you
is
have
just
any stories about sperm or animals that you want us to cover, then get in touch in the comments and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, we'll cover sperm. Anyway.
Full sperm coverage.
So yes, let us know your preferable delivery method for sperm.
How do you like to get sperm on your face or down your throat?
But not suppositories. We've got to draw the line somewhere. Right.
Come on, guys, it's a family show.
Alright, so like and subscribe, guys. There's no shame in that whatsoever. See you again soon. Bye.
Bye.